In other news, the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce is not happy with the government for dropping the ball on St. Lucia's decline on the ease of doing business ranking. The island has slipped from 27 when it joined on the survey in 2007 to 100 in 2014, whilst other Caribbean countries, once trumped by St. Lucia, have not taken the lead. St. Lucia is now number 5 in CARICOM and number 3 in the OACS. Chamber President Gov'T says there were high hopes after meeting with Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony to improve the rankings when St. Lucia stood at number 52. The Chamber had hoped then for either the Prime Minister or the Minister for Commerce to champion the cause, but instead they got a public servant.
The Chamber would like to voice its clear dissatisfaction and grave concern with the lack of action on the part of government, both at the political and technical level. From our perspective, the government has failed to live up to its commitments and responsibility to implement reform and help grow our economy. And by extension, we too as a chamber have failed to ensure this change through our advocacy. The outgoing board has committed to a retreat this coming Saturday, where both hopefully outgoing and incoming members can sit and plan, among other activities for the coming year, a new approach to engaging the government, particularly as it relates to our goal of improving the macroeconomic environment for doing business, and more generally in working with the government as a partner in developing to grow and develop our economy.
The Chamber President said his organization had detailed a 10-point plan to improve St. Lucia's ranking, starting with the most achievable reforms to move challenging initiatives. But sadly, he said there was little movement in that regard. Today, he says St. Lucia stands humiliated.
It is therefore a very humiliating experience to see that despite our intentions and efforts, and the many pledges and assurances of commitment and support from the government, St. Lucia has sunk even lower on the ease of doing business rankings. And equally important, in that 3-year period, only one reform has been implemented. This one reform, our immediate past president referred to at the last annual general meeting, was seen as low-hanging fruit, which would hopefully start the pebble rolling for the avalanche of change which is needed. This reform relates to trading across borders and moved the important license application regime from a 2-step process to a 1-step process. This change took 2.5 years to come to bear and was only registered in the 2015 report as our single reform in over 5 years. This single reform, however, moved us 10 rankings upward in the trading across borders indicator, which shows that if you do effect reforms, you will have positive progress. Possibly the first sign of a chink in the armor was that even though we indicated that this commitment needed a champion to lead the reform, and we felt that it should be no less than the Prime Minister or Minister of Commerce, the government proceeded with the appointment of the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce to head that task force. And that responsibility was occasionally subjugated to a senior officer in the said ministry. While the Chamber has the highest regard for the Permanent Secretary and the technical staff of the Ministry of Commerce, we all know that this office does not wield the kind of authority or clout within the bureaucratic administration to get other ministries, agencies, or departments to move decisively on anything of importance. Let me be clear, all of the changes required for improvement of the KPIs, the key performance indicators, lie within the public sector domain.
Countries like Jamaica, which, by the way, is now number 1 in the Caribbean, implemented at least 8 reforms. The Chamber President says his members are disappointed with the turn of events and consequently will meet shortly to decide on an approach to government on improving St. Lucia's ranking on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report. And the featured speaker at the 130th Annual General Meeting of the Chamber was Dr. June Suma, and she spoke on the topic productivity and the free movement of people and goods in the OACS Economic Union. The ambassador acknowledged that for economic union to work, there must be job creation, and those jobs must add value to the economy. Dr. Suma says the education system must be able to provide workers who are ready to meet the challenges of a modern workplace.
For you to have job creation, you must have people who are technologically ready. You must have labor market efficiency. You must have the higher education and training. I'm an educationist at heart. I was a teacher, I was a lecturer, and so on. And so this one is very important to me. You know, I am sure that all of you here complain about the fact that you are not getting the kind of workers that you want from the education system. And you have been saying that for 130 years. And still nothing has happened. How do you work with the people who provide higher education to get the kind of trained people that you need for the companies that you have?
And Dr. Suma, in response to a question about the shortcomings of the region's transportation system, acknowledged that there will be little movement of people if the cost of transportation continues to be prohibitive.
But transportation is very important to the freedom of movement of people. When I was growing up many, many years ago, people could just go over to St. Vincent for a weekend. You can no longer do that. Or fly to Barbados for a festival. You can no longer do that. So that if you look at the people who are involved in tourism here can tell you that Caribbean tourism is almost non-existent now. Only people who travel are the business people because they have to. So it's really something that we need to address seriously.
Stay with the CTV News. We'll be back after the break.